This lecture is about the axial skeleton. This lecture is based on Martini's chapter 6. Here are the learning objectives. They are organized by subject. So first, general comments about the skeleton are in the lecture, and then the skull is fully described, the vertebral column, the ribs, and the sternum. These are the drawing assignments. Draw the skull, here shown in sagittal section. It includes the cranium, which is a bony egg shell around the egg of the brain. It is almost complete. However, it does have holes in it that allow blood vessels in and out. And of course, the spinal cord to leave, and certain other nerves that go to the face to leave the cranium. But otherwise, it is a bony egg shell around the egg of the brain. Then you'll be asked to draw one of the bones of the cranium, another bone of the cranium, and yes, I picked the most complicated ones. The one shown here in purple, the sphenoid bone, and the one shown here in green, the ethmoid bone. You will also be drawing a sagittal section of the face, which lies anterior to the cranium part of the skull. So we have the cranium here, the face here, and you'll be drawing all that. And then the last drawing assignment is the paranasal sinuses, and I included this as part of your drawing assignments because the sinuses are important clinically because they so often get infected, causing sinusitis, which is an extremely common sequelae or thing that follows upper respiratory infections like colds, right, which are so common. So those are the drawing assignments. Okay, let's talk about the skeletal system in general. It includes the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. So the skeletal system includes bones, cartilage, ligaments, and joints. There are around 206 bones in the adult human skeleton. The number may vary slightly. There are some little bones that sometimes develop in people that change the number. We'll talk a little bit about those in the next lecture. All right, many of the bones are in pairs. There are two femurs or thigh bones, for example, and many of these bones are found in groups like the phalanges, which include both fingers and toe bones. And there are 28 finger bones and 28 toe bones. So altogether, there are 56 phalanges. So that's a huge group of bones. And we'll talk about them in the next lecture because they're part of the appendicular skeleton. And this lecture is on the axial skeleton. So the skeleton is divided into the axial skeleton with around 80 bones and the appendicular skeleton with around 126 bones. Here's a picture with the axial skeleton shown in orange. Okay, includes the skull, the vertebral column, the ribs, and the sternum. And finally, just kind of thrown into this is the hyoid bone, which is under the mandible. It's a little horseshoe-shaped bone. Then the appendicular skeleton is shown here, again in orange, showing the shoulder girdle, the upper limb, the pelvic girdle, and the lower limb. And that will be the subject of the next lecture. So the axial skeleton, it includes, as I just said, and hopefully you will be memorizing, the skull, the vertebral column, the ribs, and the sternum. And finally, the little hyoid bone, which actually is the only bone that's not visible in this picture here. It's kind of tucked under the mandible there, the inferior most facial bone, the mandible or the lower jaw. The axial skeleton forms the longitudinal axis in the center of the body, right? So it is just these parts that were mentioned, and its job is to protect important organs, well, one of its jobs, and it protects the brain, the heart, and the lungs. So the three most vital organs. The liver the kidneys, and the spleen are all protected by the axial skeleton. The axial skeleton provides attachment points for the muscles that move the head, neck, and trunk. It performs respiratory movements. We'll learn all about that in the respiratory system. It stabilizes and helps position the appendicular skeleton. It has red bone marrow that produces blood cells. And if you remember your prior lecture, these are all bones that were described as having red bone marrow in them. Okay, so the rundown is there are 80 bones in the axial skeleton. The skull and associated bones have 29 bones. The vertebral column has 26 bones. The thoracic cage has 25 bones. And you can look at how those are broken up. The appendicular skeleton includes the pectoral girdle, the arms, the forearms, the wrists and hands, and the pelvic girdle, which is the hip bones. The appendicular skeleton helps create movements like walking. So now I'm going to describe the appendicular skeleton. The appendicular skeleton includes the pectoral girdle, the arms, the forearms, the wrists, and the hands, and the pelvic girdle, the thighs, the legs, the ankles, and the feet. The word or phrase pectoral girdle may be a little foreign. It includes just the two scapula and the two clavicles. The pelvic girdle is the two hip bones, so nothing so unusual there. The appendicular skeleton helps create movements like walking or doing all the things that we do with our arms and our hands. The breakdown of the appendicular skeleton, it includes 126 bones. The pectoral girdle bones are 4. The upper limb bones are 60. There are such a large number of them because there are 28 phalanges or finger bones. Okay, that's most of them. And then in the wrists and the palms and the backs of the hands, there are 26 bones. So that's why there are so many bones. And we'll learn these as groups. So don't worry, it's not so bad. Then the pelvic girdle bones 2, the lower limb bones 60, and it's the exact same thing. The reason that there are so many bones is because of the ankles, the how should we say, the sole of the foot and the toes. Okay, those are what account for 52 bones. So it's not so bad. Once you get to memorizing, it's not as many things as it could be because we learn them in groups. Okay, so let's get started.